Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. I hope you're staying safe and doing well. So with SBI Clerk 2021 Junior Associate exam sometime away and GIC being postponed, we have some time in our hand to sharpen our saw and to enhance our performance. Instead of getting sad, this is the right time to feel positive and to maximize the time that we have our hands. With this in mind, in this video, let's talk about error detection. Now, as you all know, error detection is an intrinsic part of any competitive exam that you take, right? It tests your basic grammatical knowledge, it tests your concepts, it tests your application, how well you are able to apply those concepts. So our agenda for this video will start off with talking about the different types of errors, maybe the common types. Then we will move on to how to prepare for error detection, and then we'll work on some practice samples, right? Okay, so if you ask me what are the types of errors, there are different types of errors. I think there can be 7 to 8 types of errors, but let's look at the common ones, right? So the first thing that features in the list would be subject verb agreement. So, subject verb agreement is a very important part of your error detection. If you want to do well in your error detection section, you have to brush up on these basic grammatical knowledge, starting with subject verb agreement, tenses, degrees of comparison, use different appropriate use of prepositions, right? And use of correct phrasal verbs and idioms. Now, when I talk about subject verb agreement, I'm mainly talking about the main rules, right? So, what happens if there's a singular subject? How will it agree with the verb? What are the exceptions? Please do not ignore the exceptions. Exceptions are very, very important. They define the rule. The same with tenses. Tenses, how will you revise tenses? How will you make sure that the sentence agrees with the time? Therefore, which tense should you use? Those are the areas from where your error detection questions will be picked up. Degrees of comparison, so positive degree, comparative degree, superlative degree. So when you will use a positive degree, when do you use a comparative degree, and when superlative degree is used, that knowledge is also tested. Now, use of prepositions, different types of prepositions, so and correct use of phrasal verbs and idioms. We will take a look at this when we move into the exercises, the sample that we'll be working on today. But these are the 5 major types of errors that you cannot overlook, right? So you should start your preparation by looking at the basics, because if we ask the next thing that our agenda is how to prepare, so how do you get set, right? So the first thing that you need to do, if you remember the last video where I talked about how to prepare yourself for the SBI Junior Associate exam, I said the first thing that you need to do is to acquaint yourself with the question. For that, what do you need to do? You need to pick up previous year's papers, take a look at the mock test on ixamBee. Our mock tests are free. You can go visit our website and you can take a look at the mock test and try to find out the different types of questions, the different types of error detection questions. And there can be a wide range of variations. So you can have one sentence, you can have one error in one sentence, you can have two sentences, you can have multiple errors in two sentences, and you can have a portion which would be in bold. So you need to look at other parts and see where the error is. So you might even get a combination of a set, different sets of sentences, a combination. You need to find out which combination is incorrect. So go back, take a look at the question paper and find out the variations. You should be ready with all types. That's the first to do in your list. The next thing, brush up on your basics. You have to go back and ask yourself, how comfortable am I when it comes to basic grammatical knowledge? So, what about my command over tenses? So, which are my strength? Where is my weakness? What about parts of speech? What about uh, prepositions? What about subject verb agreement? Try to identify your strength and weakness because you have to build on your forte. You have to work on your areas of strength. Yes, because if you focus on what your weakness is, you will not get motivated. So you have to identify your areas of strength and then work on your area of weakness. Next, read the question very, very carefully. Often, if you read the sentence very carefully, when you're reading the sentence itself, you will get the answer. You will be able to identify the part that is incorrect and out of tune. But if reading as a whole doesn't help, try to read it in parts. Often, when you read it in parts, you will be able to identify the incorrect portion, right? And even if doing all these things, even after doing all such things, you are not able to identify the error. Come to the fourth point. Do not panic. If you panic, you start in a shaky manner. Please remember, well begun is half done. You have to start it well. If you're shaky from the beginning, then that will affect your performance. You cannot panic during the exam. If you're stuck with a question, please move ahead. Don't get stuck. You can come back to it later. And the last thing, be positive, right? Okay, it's very important for us to be positive because there's so much of negativity around, there's so much of unpleasant things happening in the world. You have to keep up your spirits high, right? With this in mind, get ready and let's work on some samples, right? Take a minute to read this question. Go ahead and work it out. Okay? Okay, take a minute. Okay, and let's do it together. Researchers found that people with cardiovascular health issues, such as angina and heart palpitations, tends to drink less coffee, avoid coffee altogether, or drink decaffeinated coffee. Right? Now, now, you read it? You do have no clue. Let's try to read it in parts. Okay? Researchers find found, I'm sorry, that people with so what is anything incorrect with the first part? Researchers found that people know. Okay, let's move on. With cardiovascular health issues, nothing, no problem. Spellings are correct, such as angina and heart palpitations. Any error? Okay, let's move on. Tends to drink less coffee. One moment. And look at the word tends. Is it agreeing with people? No, it's not. It's not. Right? Okay? So here is the problem. Okay? Researchers found that people with cardiovascular health issues such as angina and heart palpitations tend to drink less coffee, avoid coffee altogether, or drink decaffeinated coffee. You know where your clue is? The clue is avoid. This verb is agreeing with people, but this verb isn't. So when you start reading it in fragments, you will be able to identify exactly where it is going wrong. That is the reason it's very, very important to read it as a whole first, then read it in parts. Okay, so our answer is option D. Okay, let's look at the next one. So here we have another group. You need to find the part that has the error or errors. It can be multiple errors, and if it doesn't have an error, you can go ahead and mark no error. Okay, take a minute and do this. Okay, let's come back to it. The Falcon 9 rocket lifted off in 5:49 a.m. Eastern Standard Time Friday with a low rumble and leave behind a trail of fire and smoke in the pre-dawn darkness from NASA's Kennedy Space Center at Cape Canaveral, Florida. Okay, now we've read it as a whole, and maybe we made no head or tail of it. We couldn't understand it. It sounded perfect. Now let's look at the parts. The Falcon 9 rocket lifted off in 5:49 a.m. Hold on. There's something is missing here, right? What's going wrong here? We're looking at time. So what is the correct preposition? Should we use in front of it? No, it should be at. So here we have our first error, right? So we need to mark A. In cannot be the preposition. With a low rumble and leave behind. Hold on. Is there tense consistency? No, the tense consistency is missing. We started off with past tense. So if we start off with past tense, we need to continue with past tense, right? So leave is incorrect. It should be left. Okay? So in that case, B also has an error. So the Falcon 9 rocket lifted off at 5:49 a.m. Friday with a low rumble and left behind a trail of fire and smoke in the pre-dawn darkness. That's okay. From NASA's Kennedy Space Center at Cape Canaveral, Florida. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The World Health Organization, now let's go do this quickly, okay? Hopes the Olympics can go along in Japan this summer. Their emergencies chief said on Friday, saying many of the decisions on the format of the games can only be made last minute due to evolving risks from the COVID-19 pandemic. Yes, the world is finally trying to come back to its normal. The Olympics will happen in Japan this summer. So you ask yourself, what is happening in the paragraph? What is happening? What exactly is happening in the sentence? That's another way of going about, right? So you ask yourself, what is happening? So the World Health Organization is hoping that the Olympics will happen this summer. Who said that? The emergency chief. Now, the word that we are looking for here is will happen, which means what? Will continue. Keeping that in mind, let's come back to the sentence. The World Health Organization hopes, okay, no problem with that. The Olympics can go along. Go along is incorrect. It doesn't mean to continue, it should be go on. Go along means to travel with someone, right? So that's, there goes it. The Olympics can go on in Japan this summer. So let's mark B. Their emergencies chief said. Read it again. Their emergencies chief said. Now, who is there? What are we talking about? Who is there? Right? So there would here mean the World Health Organization. But why should it be there? It should be its, right? So there you have another problem with B, with C. There doesn't agree, so it's an issue with incorrect pronoun. The noun and the pronoun doesn't agree, so we have an issue with incorrect preposition. We have another issue with noun pronoun agreement. They are not agreeing. And then said Friday. What is missing? Preposition. Yes? So here we have another error. On is missing. Right? So we have multiple errors. And he's also said many things on the format of the games can only be made last minute due to evolving risks from the COVID-19 pandemic. So in that case, we can in no way go for E. We have lots of errors in this sentence. So what am I doing? I'm reading the sentence as a whole. I'm reading the sentence in parts. I'm also trying to find out what is it talking about. For example, here I asked myself, what is it happening? What's happening? So the World Health Organization is hoping that the Olympics will continue. So, continue, we need to look for a preposition that will tell us, or a phrasal verb that will tell us about continuation. Go along is not that one, it's go on. So, we have incorrect preposition. Let's look at the next one. As its vaccination drive reaches a third of adults and COVID-19 infections ease, Europe has been starting to reopen cities and beaches, raising hopes that this summer holiday can be saved before it's too late. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best. Okay? Okay, now what's the problem? Give yourself a minute, try to find it out. Check everything. You start checking out with the tenses. Check your subject verb agreement. Check your preposition. Check your noun pronoun agreement. Degrees of comparison, if any, or if phrasal verbs. Take a look. Reaches a third of its adults. Okay, so we start off with present tense. We're talking about vaccination drive reaching a third of its adults, and COVID-19 infections ease. Okay, the verb continues in the present. Europe has been starting. Hold on, why has been starting? No, this is not tense consistency. Has been starting. We do not need present perfect continuous tense here because it's just starting. It hasn't been continuing for a long time. It's just when the vaccination drive reaches a third of its adults that Europe is daring to open its beaches, right? So the appropriate tense here would be present tense, simple present tense. So this is an error, number C. This is an error. Maybe starts to reopen cities and beaches, raising hopes that this summer holiday season can be saved before it's too late. Okay, I think that's the only error. Okay, let's move on to the last one. Let's take a look at this. The world leaders and experts warn that the world is rapidly dividing. Wealthy nations, well stocked with COVID vaccines, are gaining control of the virus, while it continues to run rampant in other parts of the world. Run rampant means run wild in an uncontrolled manner, pummeling India, beating India, destroying India, and flaring, spreading in Southeast Asian countries that had been fending it off. So it's a this is something you should be scared of, an alarming thing. The world is now getting divided. So we have the rich countries, they have a lot of vaccines in stock. They're even hoarding vaccine. On the other side, we have some countries, there are no vaccines and people are dying. So this is the content right now. Let's take a look at it again. The world leaders and experts warn, that starts off your tense, that the world is rapidly dividing. Okay, it continues, it's happening in the present. So the tense consistency is on. Wealthy nations, okay, well stocked with COVID vaccines, fine, are gaining control, fine. Nations agrees with R, gaining control continues, the tense consistency is there, while it refers to the virus, okay, continues also in presence to run rampant in other parts of the world, fine, pummeling India, okay, and flaring in Southeast Asian countries that had been fending it off. There you go. No error in this sentence, right? This is also a possibility. The sentence might not have some error at all, might not have any error at all. In this case, you have to go ahead and tick it. It's a perfect sentence. You have to tick it, no error. How was the exercise? Did you like it? If you like this video, do not forget to like, do not forget to subscribe. Stay safe, stay well, stay tuned. And we will be back very soon with another such interesting video. Thanks for watching.